You should never expect to buy a vintage audio component for parts or repair and save money. You're 100% wasting your money if you do this. In this video, I'm going to talk about one of the most important things that I've learned from the past decade I spent buying vintage audio that will save you money. Let me explain. I've been buying vintage audio for the past decade and have bought thousands of components, and one of the most important things that I have learned that I want to share with you is that you should never buy HiFi for parts or repair hoping that it's an easy fix and that you're going to save money. When people list things for parts or repair, it's more often than not because they are not fixable. Let me give you an example. I've seen this countless times. I go on eBay where I find specific vintage HiFi components that I'm looking for. Now, I don't mind having to clean it up or do some minor repairs. So to save money, I typically look at physical condition first. Then once I pick out the listing of the one I think looks the best at the lowest price, then I start looking at the description. Now, here's where it gets tricky for a few key reasons. But first, if you love HiFi or vintage audio, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, give this video some hype, and go into the comments and join our community conversation about this topic. I read every comment and I love learning from our community. The first example and the most common is where the listing says for parts or repair. Now, this isn't intuitively bad, but it's definitely a red flag. Typically when this is in a listing, it's because there's a major problem and they don't want you to be able to send the HiFi component back when you realize what that major problem is, which, by the way, typically can't be fixed. Or even if it can be an extensive repair that, guess what, will waste a lot more of your money. Parts or repair should truly be looked at as something that you're buying to take parts out of to fix another unit, but not in all scenarios. For example, over the years, I had several customers of mine who would bring in a turntable that didn't work. Turntables, by the way, are one of the greatest examples of this. So the turntable didn't work, but they also brought in another turntable of the same model to take parts from. Now, in theory, what a great idea. But a high percentage of the time, this is a compound mistake. See, likely if there is a problem with the motor in one turntable, there will also be a problem in the other. Even worse, there isn't a problem when the new one is at the repair shop or when the part swap is done, but then days, weeks, or months later, the repaired HiFi component has the same problem because the certain part tends to go bad regularly in this specific model. This is a total waste of your money. At this point, you would have saved more money just buying another more expensive serviced HiFi component. Another 100% red flag example, and look, if you're buying vintage audio, you will run into red flags even if you're buying them at a vintage audio store, which is why I recently released a free guide on alleliteaudio.com of the 16 biggest red flags when buying vintage audio, which, by the way, is completely free for you to download. If you're interested in all the things you need to watch out for in a cheat sheet format to keep on hand in case you're buying vintage audio, you can click on the link in the description and download it completely free. It could save you from wasting money when buying vintage audio. So the next red flag is not even that it is listed as parts or repair, but the HiFi component is listed in such a vague way that you can't get a read on anything about it. One example of this that, by the way, is no longer allowed, but has been replaced by something far worse, which I'll get to in a second, is no description at all. When a seller doesn't have a description, or the description just repeats the title of the listing, this is a huge red flag. Just skip on to the next listing. But this isn't as easy to spot as it used to be thanks to AI. So now when listing something on eBay, you can just have AI write the description. Now this HiFi component that would have been a very small description now gets a full few paragraphs with specs, and typically our instinct when seeing that kind of description is that we relate it that the seller is being more honest and educated on the audio component, which they aren't, and you could be in big trouble if you buy this. And if they have it listed as parts or repair, on top of that, you won't be able to send it back. Now you're just wasting your money. Know what you were buying and the risk or cost involved in buying it. If it sounds too good to be true when buying vintage audio, it is too good to be true. I've been buying vintage audio for years, and there are a lot of sketchy people who just want your money. Now, there are good people like Mort's TV or the Turntable Store in Pennsylvania. Those are great sellers that I was just up at their store. It was phenomenal, but it's a lot more rare to find someone like them. Again, this is why I made that 16 red flags guide that I give away for free. Be very cautious, read reviews, get recommendations from other people as well. It will save you money. Now, the last piece of advice that I'm going to tell you is crucial, and that is if you are planning to save money on vintage audio, the best thing you can do is spend a little more upfront and get something working. Repairs can be expensive, and they typically cost as much or more than the value that they will add to your HiFi component. If you buy something that's not working, you typically will save money instead of buying a working audio component. But once you pay for the repair, you will more often than not end up spending a lot more. I can confidently say this because I've seen it personally hundreds of times. There are some exceptions to this, but you shouldn't go into something expecting to be the exception. This next piece of advice is very important, but it's not going to be directed to absolutely everyone. If you're looking to get into the vintage audio market to make money, be very careful. Here's what I mean. I've seen countless people get into this business, this community, to try to make some cash off the vintage audio market, which has risen over the past 5 or 10 years. Will the bubble break? I don't know, it hasn't yet, but I would say vintage audio prices have been on the rise for the past 10 years, and a lot of people have tried to get in. But if you're thinking of doing this, make sure you're the guy that can repair these units. You can repair the gear, or make sure you know someone who you can trust to do it for you. What you don't want to do is buy vintage audio for, let's say, $500. Buy a vintage receiver for $500. To sell it for $1,000, because most likely if it's going to need repairs, you're going to be looking at that $500. Now you're breaking even. If not, you're going to lose money because the repair could be more than that $500. Just be very cautious. So spend a little more up front. Remember, those parts repair units are typically only a value if you need physical or cosmetic parts like knobs. I've been buying vintage audio for years, and I think these videos can save you, my community, a lot of money.